In this video, I'm going to show you how to paint ice cream. So you need watercolor paper, you need watercolors and possibly a palette to mix it in if you like, a dirty water and a clean water cup, then a variety of different paint brushes, and a rag. So I'm going to start by adding some water to the different colors that I'm planning to use, and that helps loosen up the paint colors a little bit. So I just dip my brush in the water and then add the water to the paint. Next, I'm going to take the watercolor and mix it onto my palette, and I'm just preparing the different colors that I think I'm going to use for this project. So I mixed first some reds and oranges as well as a brown. So I'm going to add a little bit more water to make my colors nice and transparent, and I'm starting with the red, and I'm just painting sort of a U shape for this popsicle. So I decided my light source is going to be on the left, so I'm going to make it darker on the right and lighter on the left to show the direction of the light. So I'm just adding in more red to the right side and then more water on the left side. That makes that red really transparent. Then I'm just dropping in using the wet and wetten technique, dropping in more color and letting it sort of bleed. Now I'm painting the orange, and I'm not letting it touch the red yet because I don't want it to bleed together, but then I decided, you know what, I do want to let those two colors blend together, so I use the wet and wet to drop in some more orange, and you can see it just sort of starts to spread on its own. And I'm not worrying about it looking perfect. I'm just moving the color around and blending as I like. Last step, add in my popsicle stick. So I'm using the brown, and I'm leaving a little bit of white on the left side there just to show where the light might be hitting that popsicle stick. Next, I'm going to do another type of popsicle. So I'm going to be using this red color, and I'm alternating it with yellow. So I'm painting it in, and I'm letting it dip a little bit lower on the right side. I'm doing an angled curve there. And then I'm going to take my yellow, clean off my brush, take the yellow, and I'm following that same angle, and I'm painting it, but I'm not letting it touch the red. So I'm leaving a little tiny bit of white in between the red and the yellow. And you'll notice I do the same thing for the red. I'm not letting it touch the yellow, and I'm just following the shape and painting in an angled line here. And it's not perfect. They all are a little bit different shapes. Some of them are a little darker than others, some are a little bit lighter, but I'm just doing my best to make this look like a twisty popsicle. So I'm going to speed up the video a little bit more even, just to show you how I got this whole popsicle painted. Then after I painted the whole popsicle, I went back and I added in some more color at the bottom of each of the layers to show a little bit of depth, as well as I made it a little darker on the right side because my light source, as I'm assuming, is coming from the left. So it's a little lighter on the left than it is on the right. Last step is I will go in and paint in the popsicle stick with my brown color here. Next, I'm going to do an ice cream cone. So I'm starting with a V shape, and then I'm flattening it at the top, and I'm just going to make it a little bit darker on the outside and then use more water to make it more transparent and light toward the left side and in the middle. And then I'm going to actually go in and use wet and wet, drop in some more of the darker brown just on the right side because I want it to look darker on the right so that way the cone looks a little bit more three-dimensional. So I'm letting it be darker on the right and lighter on the left. Now I'm just cleaning up my edges here, and then I will let that dry and then start my ice cream step. So I'm just using the red to create the general contour lines, the outlines of my scoop here. And then I will fill in some areas where I want to show more depth with that same darker red. And once I'm done with that, I will use a more transparent color, more of a pink color in this middle section. I'll go in and add either just clear water and just sort of spread those colors around to show some lighter areas of the scoop of ice cream. So I keep blending it until I get it to look the way that I want it to look. And I may add more depth later once it's dried a little bit. We'll see. Last step for the cone is to create a grid. So I'm painting small squares right next to each other, and that's creating this grid of squares to make it look like a waffle cone. So I just go in and I use a little bit of a darker brown right on top, and I'm able to do this without it bleeding because that layer underneath was completely dry. So you don't want to do this step until the layer underneath is dry. So I'm just going through and adding in all of those little tiny squares with a fine brush. Last step, I will go in and finish the bottom of that scoop of ice cream and clear that white area, and then I'm finished.